We're glad you can join us. Before we get going, you can see we have a couple special guests who we'll introduce in just a second. But we do want to thank Teaching Textbooks for helping make the Smiling Homeschooler possible. They're an amazing math curriculum. Our family uses them and has for literal decades at this point. So if you haven't checked them out, go check them out over at teachingtextbooks.com. They have a free trial. Also, we want to thank Samaritan Ministries. They are a community of Christians that pay one another's medical bills, helping families take a safe step of faith as they feel God's leading in career or in ministry changes or in bringing mom home. And you can learn more at the link in the show notes or in the chat, and we really appreciate their support. But Dad, if you're ready, go ahead and get started. Let's go.
We are going to just jump right in. We've got two special guests. We've got Gena Suarez, who started the homeschool movement a long time ago. It's okay. We have no fact checkers on this show. And then Deborah Wuehler, who is her minion. And together, they have impacted the homeschool community for a couple decades. And we're going to talk all about that and changes that are happening and just how you can take advantage of what they have to offer, which they have lots to offer. But Gena and Deborah, it is good to have you with us.
It's good to be here. Good to see you guys.
Well, why don't we just kind of start? Because, not everybody knows who you are. I know who you are, and I know your stories. But how did you, both of you, how'd you start homeschooling? Why did you start homeschooling? And Gena, you can go first.
Well, Deborah should go first.
Deborah, you should go first. Go first.
She's older, and she's got older kids.
Wow. Okay. A cannonball right across the bow of the ship, right off the bat. Okay.
Yeah, that's what she does to her minions. So
I know.
I'm her minion, really.
I totally get that.
So we have been homeschooling since the birth of our firstborn. We have 8 children, and Jonathan is now 34, and then goes on down to our youngest, who's 17. And so this is his last year in homeschool. So we will be done by May after 34 years of homeschooling. So then what happened, why we decided to homeschool, though, way back before we even had any kids, was we attended a church that had a lot of homeschooling families, and we didn't even know what that was. It was a foreign word to us. So we're like, what is this? This is back in the 90s, right? We're actually like the late 80s even, because our firstborn...
I wasn't even born then. Go ahead.
Yeah, you were a baby. So we went to the church and we saw these families, and we just at first thought they were really weird. But then Richard and I, my husband, we were in charge of the Sunday school. And we went to that church for like 7 years, and we watched those kids in our Sunday school class grow up from kindergarten all the way up to middle school and more. And we saw just an incredible difference in the kids. We were just like, well, wait a minute. These are the same beautiful evangelical families who love God. And yet the difference in their children, the only difference is some of the kids were in public school and some were homeschooled. And those homeschool kids were incredible. Their character was amazing. They knew their scriptures. They could talk to adults easily, and they engaged with us. But as we watched the public school kids grow up, they became really shut down, like right around middle school. Their whole countenance just shut down, and they didn't interact with us anymore. And it was just so crazy. And so Richard and I were like, hey, if God ever blesses us with children, because we didn't know it, but it was like 8 years before we had our first. If God ever blesses us with children, we're going to try this homeschool thing. And that's how we started.
But you, Gena, the younger of the two.
Barely, a little bit. Actually, Paul and I, we were dating. We were in California. And I was 19. He's older. He's 11 years older than I am.
Wow.
So, more mature. He had more experience, all of that. And we were coming home from a date one night, and we got married 4 or 5 months later. And he told me, he said, I think that when we get married and we have kids, I don't know, I want to homeschool. And I said, no, homeschoolers are weird. And there was a family on our street where I lived at the time, and everybody, it's really weird because I don't know that they were weird. I never met them, but the whole neighborhood said that, oh yeah, they homeschool and they're weird. Now this was back in the late 80s. And so, turns out Paul was right. We homeschooled, and I had not considered it. I honestly my first response was, no, that's the weird demographic. We're not them. But we are them.
And they are weird.
We have 7, we have 8 because we have a little foster girl, quasi foster little girl that we've got, and she's in a full homeschool program under our umbrella school and everything. So we're not going to be done homeschooling. Deborah's done in 11 months or so. What did she say? I'm done.
Hey, yeah.
I'm home. This little girl's 8 years old. So, and then I've still got 2 others that have not graduated yet. So we're in it for the long haul. We've been doing it for 30 years plus years. Yeah.
But obviously this was a totally different time back then. I mean, the 80s compared to now. I was just talking to a coworker about how different it is, in terms of just the acceptance and the normalcy and everything else. But at the time, I mean, you started something. How close was the Old Schoolhouse to when you started out, and what kind of, motivated you to do that back in those days?
Yeah, and that was back in, I started an eBay business in 1999, I think, or maybe 2000, something like that. Called it the Old Schoolhouse, just selling used curriculum. So I had no plan on, doing a magazine or newsletter, but it did start as a newsletter back in 2000 and what, Deb? 2001. Yeah, and right, and so it's 25 years. We've just finished.
And so, were you guys neighbors or something? Because I know, you were both from California at one time, correct?
We went to the same church. Same church.
Okay.
Same church. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And so Deborah was with us since almost the very beginning. She just, what she was in our church. We had a lot of young mamas, and there were a lot of homeschoolers in that church, and kind of an immature, all of us kind of on the immature side. We were kind of new. Homeschooling was sort of new. We were kind of figuring out our tribe, following the speakers that were out there, didn't really know them. But Deborah was different in our church, and I kind of was intimidated by her a little bit. She just loved the Lord. We all love the Lord, but she was mature. And so my husband was like, that's who we want, that kind of a person. She needs to be writing for us. And so she's been with us for since 2002? 2003?
Yeah, 2003, yes.
Wow.
And then we just became extremely good friends throughout the years, but I've never regretted that. She has been an incredible senior editor, and we're still going. We're not doing the magazine now. We just finished it. We just finished 25 years, but she's still with us, and we're still producing content.
What has always been the heartbeat of, the Old Schoolhouse, through it all, at the beginning, and I know things kind of change and morph, but was it to have smarter kids? Was it to, show them that we could do it? What was when you had those little meetings in your living room, what was behind it all?
I don't know, Deborah. I think she and I would both agree that we both, for us anyway, we have a huge staff, and so we can't speak for everybody, but we have a very like-minded staff for the most part. But Deborah and I both, I think from the very beginning, it was from conviction. Our husbands were like, yeah, we need to think about this. This is something, and it didn't have to do with academics so much as it had to do with character. And we're going to have these kids. Are they going to love the Lord? Period. It was simple. Deborah, do you have anything? I mean, early meetings, what did we talk about?
And how did you see homeschooling achieving that,
Deb?
I think it was always our goal from the beginning to just to continue to point the families back to Christ as center of their homeschool, so that it would be successful. I mean, we've always, kind of based things on Psalm chapter 1, which is what I call the homeschool psalm, because it says, "Blessed is he who does not walk in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of the Lord." And we all know that scripture, but it says if we meditate on his word day and night, we'll be prosperous and successful. And here the world is saying, just fill their heads with knowledge and they will be prosperous and successful. But the Bible says something different. It says, meditate on the word of God day and night, and you'll be prosperous and successful. And so we kind of, started there and then continuing to remind parents that they could trust God, because it's a scary thing. You're going out there and you're doing something against the flow of society, and it can be scary. So we wanted to say, hey, you can trust this God. And we wanted to, so over the years we kind of kept that as our just that standard of, it just be obedient to what God tells you to do. You're not going to see the future, but he does, and you can trust him. He's big. And your kids they're gonna be okay. They're gonna be okay. And we loved when you came along, Todd, and started writing for us and with us, and just relaxing, helping moms and dads relax, because it was such a big undertaking, the education of your children, especially back in the early years.
Yeah.
When it was just starting, and people were just so anxious about getting it right.
Do you think that, I mean, because people ask me all the time, they probably ask you the same things. So what have you noticed the changing over the years? You would think that we would become, because we've already kind of proven this thing works, and you'd think that we'd be impervious to those, doubts. But sometimes I feel like they're growing, like not from the world, but from each other. Like we're saying, you get that pressure, like, well, have you started teaching your 3-year-old to read yet? My 4-year-old, he's not reading. I heard my friend they're reading chapter books and we're not reading anything, or math. We don't even get to math, Do you feel like that is still, moms are still facing that?
Yeah, I mean, that's at the core. There's always at the very beginning, especially when you start trying to homeschool, you are very uncertain, very anxious in many cases. And that's why when Deb mentioned you, Todd, I mean, you come along and you make people just laugh and crack up and laugh at ourselves, laugh at each other. And it believe me, that's why we grabbed you as a columnist. It was just that balance. You have to be able to laugh at the situation, but we kept pointing them back to Christ. I mean, it's always the same answer. There is no formula. There's just an answer, a true answer. And that is it. That is God's word. That is found in his word. And when we point those families back to him, we have seen a lot of success that way. We've also seen a lot of sad things over the 25 years we've been doing this. The moms are different. We've dealt with multi-generations now. We're serving a generation now that is totally different than the ones we started out serving. Some of the older ones we're still serving, but these younger moms, they are so different. The millennial moms, we're Gen X, right? Gen Z?
I don't know what we are.
One generation. Yes, because I've got
I'm a boomer.
Yeah.
I'm a boomer too. This is like so old. Like I think I could have served in World War II, I think. I'm not positive.
Gen X, I thought.
I'm not. I'm a
You're
boomer.
a boomer? Really?
I'm the last year.
Really?
So going back to what you just said, Gena, because there are a lot of young moms listening right now. What are they facing, or how are they thinking maybe differently?
You know what? It's more trendy now. It's more mainstream, right? To homeschool. Deborah and I, in the very early days, we were hearing recent stories of people who had gone to jail or who had been threatened with jail. Freedom to homeschool was really, really different than it is now. It's not threatened anymore. And so that's part of the reason I think some of the younger moms, they can hop around. They can we have seen them start off by maybe doing some homeschooling, and they jump into some other, throw them in public school for a couple of years, then come back to homeschooling. They're hopping around. They don't feel the same sense of seriousness maybe than the older moms did. And that's just a generation. That's what they know. They also travel in packs. We go to conventions and you see those young moms together, which is great for community. They are very, very community focused. But if you think back into the earlier days when we first started, there were support groups. There were support groups everywhere. People don't even know what a support group is now. There's no more support groups. There's online. That's where everybody gets their support. They get it on Reddit and they get it on Facebook, on X and everywhere else, not with each other, which is why we push co-ops big time now. Huge. And we're helping grow them all over the place because these younger moms want that community. And that's good. That is such a good thing because there's that accountability there, that friendship there. They're talking with each other, but they scroll and they click. They're online. Everything is online. They're app based. And so we've had to pivot big time just to meet those moms and kind of help serve them where they're at. But yeah, the difference is real.
Well,
It's real.
and one thing, you say on the website, and it kind of goes with this is, let's see, you said home is where they belong, just a nice, simple sentence is home is where they belong. Do you feel like that's even more true now than it was even in the 80s? You would think that, I don't think that's changed. If anything, even gotten worse, or more true, I should say, not worse, but is that something that, these moms who are pulling the kids in and out, is that something you would encourage, is that home is the best, and maybe speak to that?
Yeah, Deb, speak to that.
Yeah.
That's her little byline that I wish I could steal.
that is
a good one. It is a good one.
Right. And so it is the best, we all know it's the best opportunity for kids academically, but in every way, I would say it's more about freedom, and more about freedom for kids to thrive and to feel comfortable in their own skin and in their own environment and in their own worldview, and to be able to actually, just be who God has created them to be, whatever that looks like. They can follow any path, any idea, any hobby, any craft, any skill, any, knowledge base. They can just go for it because they have all of this freedom. And so really, and then they have this belonging. So that's, what's the where the belong comes in. They have this belonging not only in their family unit, but in their, generational family unit, and in their support groups, and co-ops and all of the things. So there's so much freedom in homeschooling, but also there's freedom from things. Like they are free from any kind of bullying, and they're free from any kind of peer pressure or agendas that are being pushed today, which are so horrible compared to when we started.
Schools aren't hiding it anymore. I'm sorry, I was just saying, but the schools are no longer hiding it.
Right.
Back in earlier on, you had kids would come home and you'd find out things that are happening in the textbooks, things that are being said in the classrooms. Now, look what they're doing in the schools, and everybody's pulling their kids out, whether they're Christians or not, because the schools are just bold-faced with their agenda. They've got it written right there for all to see. Right. So people are, that is what we mean. It's like, man, your kids don't belong there. Get them home where they belong. Get them walking with the Lord. Get them under.
But isn't that kind of scary at the same time? Because really, we train them outside the box, and then they get to the time where they're ready to leave our house, and they're thinking outside the box, and we're like, can you get back in the box now, and just do something that sounds normal, or, because, we have trained them in a different way. I think it is the right way, but it can be a little frightening, at times, because they're like, well, I don't want to do that because I've been created to do this. And you're like, does that make money? Or is there a job out there for that? And that's true, isn't it?
They have more time to pursue it, though. And look at our kids. they have businesses. They're into cryptocurrencies. They're into AI. They're into all the things, but they're doing it on their own time, and they're doing it under their parents' tutelage. They're not just being thrown into what the public schools really do offer. You can go to a library and you can view porn. You can get into all sorts of things. AI is now teaching you how to unalive yourself. There's so much. And if those kids are out, someone's discipling them. Somebody is absolutely discipling them. And if we're not doing it, somebody else is. We're just telling parents, you do it. You raise them. Let's raise our own kids. And then they have time. They got lots of freedom to explore what business, whatever they want to go into. They succeed. They're successful. Dr. Brian Ray shows that out all the time.
All the time.
Yeah.
Did you raise your hand, Ed?
No, I was just saying, hey, this would be a good time to have a commercial. And so we want to thank Redeem Health Share by Samaritan Ministries for making today's show possible. If you're like others I've talked to, maybe the changes in the Affordable Care Act have you worried. Can I encourage you to check out Redeem Health Share? It's Christians helping other Christians with their healthcare needs. And I think they might be the solution to your concerns. They have multiple programs and options to fit the budget and season of your life. We've been members for over 15 years and couldn't be happier. You can learn more about Redeem Health Share in the show notes.
Also, we want to say thank you to Teaching Textbooks. They just make this all possible. They've been an amazing partner, and they're an amazing company. So if you're going, we're getting in close to convention season here in just a couple more months. If you are going to your local convention, which we always encourage, their Teaching Textbooks is at all of them. So if you'd like to talk to someone in person, see what they're all about, you can do that at essentially every convention that's out there. So, or if you're not, you can check them out at teachingtextbooks.com. They have a free trial and family plans, and they just, you can do it from pretty much any device. So it's really easy to access. But I did want to say, it's just crazy to me that they have that somehow that homeschooling is like the unnatural thing, where it's like, it's obviously, it is the natural way to raise your kids and teach your kids, which it has been for millennia. But then now it's because, in the last, 100 plus years or whatever, it became the unnatural thing. And it's just, it's a bummer to me, because it's just such an amazing thing. And the way I do believe God has, obviously called us to be parents, which is homeschooling, which you say also on your website, is homeschooling is discipleship. And you've mentioned that multiple times through this, that is the core of what we're all doing. And I hope that is, every mom on here, that they realize that is what the real goal of all this is. It's not just, finishing the book, or I've got to have my kid be the smartest kid, or start a business at the age of 15 or whatever. It is that discipleship. And I guess, how do you guys support, these moms who are out there who are, discouraged, who are always, feeling the doubt of the world and the pressure and all of that? What does the Old Schoolhouse offer in terms of encouragement and support? And what do you guys do every day?
You want to take that, Deb? You got that one?
I'll start. So, as we said, we've had the magazine for 25 years. And so that has been a real backbone for the company and, the flagship of what we've done. And that the whole goal of the magazine was to just get information into homeschool families' hands, that they could see, hey, this is doable. It doesn't look like, it's out of my league. I can handle this, with all of the practical steps and all of the articles that were, every subject under the homeschool realm has been covered over these 25 years, from special needs to everything. So, so we've always wanted to come alongside and be that partner with the homeschool family to say, hey, you got this. It's okay. Get up, keep running. Hard things happen. That's okay, because you're going to make it through, and right. Your kids are not going to turn out crazy. You're not going to ruin them. All the things that we just wanted to come alongside the homeschool family and support them in any way we could think of. And so we have our Homeschool Minute, which is our weekly newsletter that Todd, you write for as
I've been written it forever.
Forever.
I mean, forever.
Forever. Really good column. It's good.
Yeah. In fact, when I started with the company, I started the Homeschool Minute newsletter. I started on that project. I started with the Homeschool Minute. So that's our.
And when they couldn't get any real writers, they finally called me.
Yeah. And again, you were there to just, make the families feel like, I can do this. Okay. This is, there's someone who is saying, keep it real. And they understand what's going on in my home. So, and then we've had, all kinds of product reviews and, to help the families decide what curriculum to use. We've even, started the schoolhouseteachers.com in order to provide just budget-friendly curriculum for families that, is just covers everything that they could ever think of for homeschooling their kids. And so all of that, the Lord just put in our path, and we just went forward with it. And as Gena was saying, we've had to pivot over the years. Where are these homeschool families going, and how are we going to support them if they're going this way? So now we're, trying to rethink about, putting more effort into social media and all of the other promotions we can do in that way. But also, as Gena was saying, like the support, the personal support one-on-one is super important. And I've been leading a support group for the whole time I've been homeschooling. But the one I just was at my support group last night, And several new moms were just saying, oh, yeah, we started at COVID. We started homeschooling because we had to. And then we were like, oh, this is horrible what the schools are teaching. And so, there was 3 moms there last night who were like, we started at COVID and we pulled our kids out. And now, we don't know what we're doing, but we know we can do better.
I love that story. I love that. And I hear it all the time. I hear it all the time.
So these are moms, who had, again, no clue. And now they're like, hey, I have to take this on because they're not doing a good job, this free babysitter over here. I need to take this on. And, I'm no longer going to give my kids over to the lowest bidder. I'm going to do this myself. And they have found, just the support they need through just a lot of things that the Old Schoolhouse offers. I mean, we have been there this many years that, of course, we have our Facebook page, we have, all the social media things, and we have a college directory. I mean, I'm looking at my things on my notes. We have so much. We have
you have
now
so much. It makes me tired. You come up with another business every 3 days. There's another one. But Gena, you mentioned one that you kind of interest, or you said something about we're helping start co-ops. What do you mean by that?
That's really our major pivot, actually. So we did the magazine for 25 years and a ton of other stuff, like Deborah said, in between. And some stuff worked, some stuff didn't. I mean, we even started another magazine for homesteading that went for a few years, and then we retired that one. It's
never asked me to write for that one.
That's because you're not a homesteader. You're not a homesteader.
As soon as they started introducing Twinkies, I could do it, but not until that point.
Yeah. So,
okay, go ahead.
So we decided, the magazine's not being read as much because this new generation, they're minimalists. They don't buy magazines. And we've seen Borders and Barnes and Noble, and the Borders went away altogether. Barnes and Noble shrunk their whole entire magazine rack. It's just a different age. And so magazines are not just all it anymore. So we pivoted to communities, schoolhouses, and it kind of fit our name, the Old Schoolhouse. It kind of, so schoolhouses, they're popping up everywhere. We just had meetings this week with a pastor in India, another one from Burma. We have South Africa. We have schoolhouses all over the place in the United States. Started in Tennessee 3 years ago. They're just homeschool, but they're homeschool co-ops, but they're networked. And so we use the schoolhouse teachers curriculum, which is so nice because biggest problem in homeschool co-ops is that all the different teachers, the parents are saying, okay, you have to buy this curriculum and this one and this one and this one and this one for all these different classes. It can get really expensive really quick. This is a centralized system, a record keeping too, everything. It's just a one-stop shop. So they're popping up, super affordable, and they're free to join. If you've got your membership to schoolhouseteachers.com, you're in. You're all your enrollment, all your classes. We have 3 schoolhouses right here in Tennessee near me. I teach at 2 of them. But your kids can go to all of them, and some of the families do. And there's no per class fees, no per child fees, it's free to go because they've got their memberships to ST. So that's the new model, but it is all community based. It's all about getting these families together, these younger moms, the older ones coming in and mentoring, the pastor totally involved, his wife totally involved. Now the marriage counseling is coming in, the family counseling is coming in. Everything is right there. And what we're telling the pastors with our nonprofit, the pastorplan.org, the nonprofit pastor plan, what we do with those pastors are help them to start those schoolhouses all over the place. And it's working. They want to be the answer to the public school problem. And so they're saying, yep, we're opening our doors. Let's do it. And we show them how. And
you said it's pastorplan.org?
Yeah.
Because I know there are several, there are lots of moms whose husbands are pastors or they know a pastor. I think that's a great idea. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. It's keeping us busy because it's worldwide, keeping us busy.
So if there is a mom listening who would like to, get more information, follow you guys, should they go, which website would you send them to first?
Wow. Well, the oldschoolhouse.com is the big, that's the first one. That's the trademarked one, but joinschoolhouse.com is a good one because the younger moms are looking for that. They're wanting to find a place and get their people, find their people, find their best friend, and their kids. They're very, very interested in having their kids be friends with other homeschool kids. That's big. It's a huge thing. And I love it because we just fit right in there. lot of grandmas are homeschooling their grandchildren, which has been wild because we thought we were going to start these homeschool co-ops, these schoolhouses, and it was going to be just a bunch of young mommies, which was great. My daughter is homeschooling. She's, what is she? She's almost 30. And I thought it would be a bunch, and there are a bunch of them, but there's a bunch of grandmas too. I love it. I have friends now.
Well, as we kind of bring this to a close, I want to hear from both of you. Not the old schoolhouse answer, not an article answer, but, the mom who's listening right now and she's just not sure. This is harder than she thought, or maybe she hears all the lies that homeschooling moms believe, that she's got to let her kids down. They're not going to be as smart as the kids down the street, or, from your hearts, from your experience, what you've seen in your kids, because, it's not easy. I mean, our kids do stupid things and they say harsh things. You didn't teach me enough, whatever subject. And yet they're super brilliant and they're super doing amazing things. And because our kids are dumb, they don't know. They just don't know, and I was like, how do you think you got there? This is not an accident, but from your hearts, and I'll let Deborah go first. Deborah, just, again, talk to the mom. Why do you, tell us why you still believe in it.
Well, because I've seen the fruit. So that's the reason I began homeschooling, because I saw the fruit in these kids. And then now, after all these years of homeschooling and having all these adult children, seeing the fruit in their life, like you said, they're brilliant. They know how to learn whatever they want to learn. But more than that, their character is amazing, and also just the fact that they have just the family bonding and the community with family, and I can look back and just say, man, God, you were faithful, because I had no idea what I was doing. I was just reaching for straws. I had no idea. And so, and like I said before, I was homeschooling blindfolded, and a lot of moms feel that way, that they have no idea what the future holds and how they're going to hold the education of their children. But as I look back and I see, as we were just obedient, one day the next, wake up and do it again. Just wake up and do it again. Wake up and do it again, because you will look back and see that God has filled in all the gaps, all the things you thought you were missing, all the things that you thought you ruined in your children. You look back and you go, wow, God, you have redeemed my mess and you have created something beautiful out of my ashes. And just the crumbs I had to give you, you blessed and you broke and you shared. And it's just, I just can't say that enough, that God is bigger than me. and
even though it didn't go by in the blink of an eye, like some people will say, it did go by fast, didn't it?
Yes. The when all the kids were there, and a lot of little ones, it feels like forever, like you're never going to get out of that situation. You're like, they're never growing up. They're just always here. But now, yes, looking back, I'm like, man, I want to do it again.
Yeah. How about you, Gena?
She said it all. I mean, at the risk of sounding like an alarmist, I'll add this. You see why she's our senior editor? You see that? That's right there. That's why. I don't. Okay, so alarmist. I was. If you look at the Pew report, if you look at George Barna, if you look at these stats that have come out over the years and what is happening, it's getting worse. It's not getting better. 87% of kids, when they go through the public school system, by the time they go through college, they abandon their faith. They're done. They're over with it. They've heard too much of the mantra the agenda coming out of the state schools. It's government institutionalized education. It's what they want your children to learn. And little by little, even with the Socratic dialogue that takes place in the schools, and that, the kids are raising each other. The peer pressure is so major, but they actually raise each other. I know how I was raised. I was raised by my friends. Literally everything I got words I knew, all the things I knew. I learned them from my friends. I also learned things from teachers, but that was back in the 80s when they hid it a little bit better, but now they don't hide it. And they're doing things where they're marching those kids out of classrooms to go participate in activism. You may have heard in the doing that without the parents' permission. Their parents are pulling their kids out. If you want your kids to be discipled, they're going to be, or if you don't want your kids to be discipled, it really doesn't matter because they will be.
Right.
Absolutely will be. And so what I would say to that young mom is, who do you want to raise that kiddo? That is a precious soul. God gave you that kid, and you want to raise that kid. By the way, the Lord expects you to raise that kid. And so you have to disciple. You're going to give an answer. You're going to give an answer to who discipled your kid and why, and how that took place, and not to scare them. But that 87% number, it's real. And you can look that up, and it's going to just continue to get worse in that regard, because kids are today, they've got so much input coming in from all over the place, so very, very much more. And you don't even know that unless you're old like me and you've seen it all. And it's just so different now than it was back when I was being public schooled in the 70s and 80s. It's just very, very different. I don't have a lot of time. Time flies, like you just said. It's that you blink and they're graduated, and it's so quick. And then you have regrets. I don't want that. And I don't want that for you. And so consider finding a church-based group of people that you can tie into, that you can become family with, make them your people, make them your tribe, and dive in, because there's a ton of support. So many people, Christian homeschoolers, and you can plug in. You look, you seek, and you will find. I promise you that. So,
well, thank you both for taking time to be with us. I assume, Gena, do you have a lot of snow there?
Yes, and the South is so funny because all the bread is gone, all the milk is gone. Nobody will drive.
Yes, that's a community. Steal everything for yourself. But thank you so much for thanks for doing this for 25 years, and here's to another 25 years of excitement and adventure. Thanks for allowing me to be on the team, and thanks for just doing what you do. And I'm going to steal Deborah's line again. So, Mom, have a great night. And be confident that home is where they belong.
Amen.
All right. Thanks again to Teaching Textbooks for making this all possible. Go check them out. Support them at teachingtextbooks.com. And thank you to Samaritan Ministries, a community of Christians who help pay one another's medical bills. They make it possible for families to take a step of faith, whether that's a career change or ministry opportunity or in bringing mom home. And you can learn more and support them through the link in the show notes. Everyone have a great week, and we'll see you next week.